What's up, everybody? It's your boy DJ Mr. Green. Did it in the bedroom with the lead pipe, y'all. And welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast. On this week's episode, Joel and I will take a look at the world of movie news, especially the movie news, and movie trailers that have dropped throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys. And then we will have our joint review of Murder on the Orient Express, the 2017 version of the same name. It's based on a book. It's been remade 1,000 times. Will a whodunit clue type film work in 2017? Will Joel hate it? Will he like it? Will I like it, dislike it? What are we going to do? What is going to happen? We're going to have to sit down, relax, and find out. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast, where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where I talk about anything, everything, and anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey guys, listen, if you were searching on the internet for something really random, something to, bring to Thanksgiving dinner next week, I don't fucking know, but you're not a movie fan, you accidentally stumbled across this podcast, well, hopefully we can convince you to be one. This is episode 207, guys. We are 1 week away from that 4-year anniversary episode. It's going to be quite a lot of fun. If you're new to the show, welcome. Typically what we do is we'll go over some movie news and some movie trailers that drop throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys. And then we will also review movies that come out on that Friday and then box office results for the weekend to accompany said movies that we review. I am not the only one on this show, and so I'd like to introduce, the co-host with the mostest. That would be Joel over there in the corner. Joel, how are we doing this week?
It's been a pretty busy week at work and a completely eventless week elsewhere. Just totally empty of any sort of events. Nothing happened. It's been a pretty quiet news week.
So Joel's sarcasm has broken through the airwaves. Thank you for that. Yeah, my week has been pretty good. Just watching some movies, doing my thing, yo. I'm a pretty boring person when you meet me in person, so that's how that goes. So before we begin, please share this episode around and let people know this is the definitive movie podcast you guys all listen to, because you guys know that we can't survive without you. You guys are the best, and so. This is episode 207, like I said. So, the main movie for review. We are going to be doing the 2017 remake of Murder on the Orient Express. It is directed by Kenneth Branagh. Speaking of Thor from last week, Kenneth Branagh directed the first Thor from 2011. He's done a lot of Shakespearean stuff, so it'll be very interesting to see how he can kind of bring a whodunit type of film into today's time. So. So that is the main review, and then of course the movie news and movie trailers that have dropped throughout the week. And guys, this movie news week is so insane that I can't waste any more time with this. We gotta jump into it. Joel, what are we gonna talk about first? Because it almost gives me a headache to know all the topics that we're about to talk about tonight.
Yeah, it's been an insane week. All right. I just want to reassure everybody, all of our listeners, that despite the fact that we have become one, I don't want to become one, and that's a tabloid service. I don't like the gossip unless it changes the movie industry in some way. Then we'll talk about it, but otherwise, I like to keep away from talking about people's personal lives, no matter how bad they are, because everybody's got vices. Everybody, people are terrible. We're just now learning this, and yet the reporting of it is kind of tabloidy in its nature. But this week, there's just been some stuff that's been unavoidable, and so we're not going to go into length about Louis C.K. That stuff broke this week as well, and only to say that they took I Love You Daddy off the schedule, which is a pretty bold move, a week out. It was literally, I think, 8 hours before its NYC premiere. It was canceled, and then it was just taken off the schedule entirely. Online links for critics were they stopped playing, essentially. They don't work anymore. Only the DVD screeners work, and I assume there's probably going to be some sort of black market for those at some point. But yeah, I mean, so that happened. But the big thing that happened this week. So, as we talked about last week, Kevin Spacey is the latest one to be accused of this of things of a sexual nature. So Sony did something pretty bold in the wake of this. They well, actually, I say Sony. I should say Ridley Scott did something pretty bold in the wake of this, and that is to completely remove Kevin Spacey from all the money in the world and recast him with Christopher Plummer. Now, I have to remind people, so this movie comes out on December 22nd. Originally, it was supposed to come out on December 8th. I think that before this even happened, they had moved the release date back a couple weeks. I think it was only a few days before everything happened. It had a bit of a shift there. It moved its wide release to December 22nd, and it still has that release date. But they're going back. They're reshooting. Everybody has gotten back together. Mark Wahlberg, Michelle Williams, all the extras, all the cast, and they're coming together with Christopher Plummer to reshoot the scenes that Kevin Spacey had shot for the movie. Now, this might seem like it's an impossible feat, and honestly, it seems to be like a pretty crazy one to try to fulfill this. But Kevin Spacey only shot, I think, 10 days. So, and this is not a huge effects-driven movie, so I feel like they could just go in. He's probably like halfway through, honestly, by this point. He's probably halfway through the shooting process because they started it last Wednesday. Yeah, so about 4 days into it, maybe. And I feel like that's a little more possible. But it is a crazy, crazy plan to recast somebody in a movie that's been basically completed and was a month away, and it was like a week away from closing the AFI Fest, right? Or opening it or whatever. Mm-hmm. So playing at the AFI Fest. So of course that was canceled because they had to reshoot it. So now, the question becomes, will we get another trailer? Will it just be like a re-edit of the first trailer just with Christopher Plummer in it? I would suspect that what they would do is just like, honestly, like this is what I would do. I would just edit the first trailer and remove all traces of Kevin Spacey, and then just call it official trailer redux or something, rather than number 2, because whatever it's going to be Christopher Plummer essentially, performing the lines fairly close. I feel like fairly close to how Kevin Spacey had them, because obviously I feel like there's no time for him to create a new character. It's going to be just him going in there. And it's been funny because in the wake of that decision, there's been a lot of Twitter and Facebook talk about joking about roles that Kevin Spacey played that they would replace him with Christopher Plummer. And it's just like, anyway, that was really funny. I even took part in that, and I posted in a Facebook group. I was like, perhaps Funny or Die should do a sketch where he actually goes back and plays roles filled by terrible Hollywood people. So like we would have Christopher Plummer as Captain Jack Sparrow, and Christopher Plummer, I guess, in Horace and Pete now,
yep.
Or something like that. So it'd be pretty funny. And I feel like, Christopher Plummer is essentially a perfect human, so I feel like he would be down for that. He seems like he has a sense of humor and just seems like a lovely man overall. So I love the guy. He's one of my favorite actors. If you guys never saw Beginners, please go out and see that. He won an Oscar, and deservedly so. It's great performance from him, and yeah. So this has been an insane week, and this is like maybe the middle insane thing. of the news this week. We really haven't gotten to the craziest bits, so get strapped in because this is going to be insane. So Chase, I wanted to hand it over to you. What do you think about all of this?
Two things. If Christopher Plummer replaces all of Louis C.K. in the show Louis, it will be officially called Plummy now. That's the first thing. Number two. I was telling Joel this, like, Ridley Scott's having a bad year. Like, this guy is getting pummeled left and right. When you think about what he started out with earlier this year with Alien Covenant, Joel and I really liked the movie, but it did not do well box office-wise. His company also released that Phoenix Forgotten found footage movie. That didn't do that well, and he's partly responsible for the creation and distribution of Blade Runner 2049, which is also bombing. So this movie was never going to make money. Let's get that right. However,
there was this roundtable. I didn't watch all of it, but I watched the part where Seth Rogen was talking about Harvey Weinstein and having dealt with him, once a decade ago. And Ridley Scott was sitting right by him. And I mean, like, not to try to get into somebody's mindset or mind space just by looking at them, but he looks strained and stressed in that thing. He usually is a fairly, reserved guy, but he looked tired. And this must have been like the last straw. I know that there was, there's word of like some meeting where they all held a meeting and everybody was, horrified by the fact that, first of all, that Kevin Spacey, did this stuff. Mm-hmm. And also the prospect of the movie just losing, hundreds or tens of millions of dollars because of his involvement in it, because nobody's going to want to see that movie where, he plays this ruthless guy who won't, pay money. And anyway, just the role on top of the allegations is not a great Kevin Spacey, like, PR experience. Mm-hmm. So you hear rumors about this meeting where everybody was horrified by the fact that they could lose money because of this. And so, he essentially just fired Kevin Spacey and then told Sony. And
he went rogue, and like that just shows you how strong this dude is, even though he keeps getting pummeled down. But even with this, like, this movie was never going to make money. But now with this stunt, who knows? It could turn out to be a 10% bump than what it was going to originally get because of the controversy surrounding it. But as far as replacing Christopher Plummer, this is one of the ballsiest things I've ever seen in my life. Now, it'd be different if they were to reshoot Kevin Spacey scenes and maybe they push the movie out until, I don't know, March or something. It's like, okay, that's doable. It's not, especially when Kevin Spacey was only in maybe 10 to 15 minutes worth, that's really easy to do. Well, not easy, but easier than doing like maybe half the movie or all of the movie, Han Solo. But I mean, with this, that's just crazy. Like, because the Kevin Spacey story, Joel and I were like, we're done talking about it. It's like, but then it just keeps getting, more layers on top of layers with this story. But I really like the fact that they're doing this move to change it out because, like I said, this movie is not going to make money, but Sony does still need to think about their business. And, if this is going to help it, which it definitely will, then they need to take precautions and do something like this. And I like the fact that Ridley Scott just barged into that office and goes, hey, I'm firing Kevin Spacey. And I'm going to replace him. We need to do this now. And they're just like, the movie comes out in 6 weeks. So I'm glad that everyone was game to do it. Cast, crew, Marky Mark.
The big problem with box office is that it's moved from a fairly empty week into a packed week.
Correct.
So because you have Jumanji on that Wednesday, that's going to get a 2-day bump. Mm-hmm. And then you have Downsizing, which, is a smaller movie, but it's kind of all the money in the world's direct contender, in that space. And then you have, I think, Father Figures, right? Or is that might be a Christmas Day? I can't remember, but I think it's the 22nd. And then you have Pitch Perfect 3. So it's Jesus. all these movies are going to swallow it up. But
which is also Sony, right, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
So Sony's going to cannibalize each other.
Oh, my gosh. What they probably should do is, like, maybe do that weekend limited and then just say, you know what, screw it, this wasn't going to make a lot of money, and then release it wide on like the following Friday, so the 29th.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like they should do if they want to get it seen before the end of the year, by people, because it was a wide release. It's one that has wide appeal with, even Christopher Plummer's a fairly big star. Maybe kind of a niche star in a certain way, but he's got The Man Who Invented Christmas. He's in The Star next week. So, he's a fairly noticeable guy. And then you have, Mark Wahlberg and Michelle Williams, who are very big names. And this is wide, mass appeal. And I feel like that's what they should do. Do something sort of the Post-ish, where it's a limited release and then it gets wide or something. I guess a closer match would be Molly's Game, I guess. But anyway.
Well, I'm just really curious to see how it's going to do it, because, I mean, people like Joel and I, and I'm assuming most of you guys listening, like, we were going to go see the movie regardless of whoever the hell was in it, just because the story is so fascinating. But I'm wondering how this is going to impact the overall public. So, I mean, we'll see.
And I will say, like, whenever I'm certainly going to see it, because I'm down for anything Ridley Scott that's, a prestige drama, and prestige adult drama, I should say. And I will tell all of my listeners who also read my reviews, you won't see a mention of Kevin Spacey in my review because he won't have anything to do with it anymore. So I can assure you all that, while it might be a talking point for a lot of people at the time, and I can't wait for the deluge of reviews where that's the case, for me, I won't mention it. Maybe I'll mention it. I don't know if it'll be big enough that we review it on the show that weekend, but
well, and I just want to say one last thing, and we'll move on. Like, this is probably the last time we'll ever talk about Kevin Spacey, because with this move right here, that means Sony wasn't even able to give him one last movie. So that means his final film may well be, like Joel said, Baby Driver. So he's done.
Yeah,
he's done.
He's completely done. I mean, maybe Louis C.K. is not. I think that he's probably going to go into hiding for a while. But Kevin Spacey's been so completely destroyed by all of this, and for a good reason. I don't mean in a like I'm saying this in a sad way. He's done. He's not working anymore. Nobody's going to take him back unless they themselves have some sort of moral thing that's wrong with him. And I mean, I suspect that beyond this, he won't want to work.
Yeah. To
be completely honest, because he'll always have this on him. But yes, let's move on, because this is the last time we'll ever talk about him. And because I feel like this is done. Like, this story is done.
It's done. Like,
he's done. This was the last nail in the coffin. There's really nothing else that anybody can do to him.
It's almost like, I'm not even joking, like, Christopher Plummer is like the metaphor for good. Kevin Spacey was like the metaphor for evil. Christopher Plummer comes in, swoops in, saves the day, and Kevin Spacey gets shoved to the ground. Like, this is it. This is like a David and Goliath story. So it's like, it's
exactly.
finito,
It'll be really funny. It'll be really funny if, they had this big play where Kevin Spacey was going to be in Best Supporting Actor, and then Christopher Plummer comes in and gets nominated. I mean, it would just be the greatest karmic justice. But yeah. So let's move on, because there's been even more crazy things here. So we got two gigantic stories involved. Well, no, three gigantic stories involving Disney this week. Two of them are very unfortunate. One of them is very fortunate, I will say, at least on my end. All right, so it's kind of hard to decide which one to choose first. I mean, and I know that Chase agrees with me. So, all right, this is counterproductive, I suppose, but let's start with a good one. So Rian Johnson is, of course, directing episode 8, which is coming out in about a month, and I cannot wait. Oh my gosh. But it was broken this week that he is going to write and direct the first episode in a new trilogy and produce 2 others. I am just going to assume that this is the next, trilogy cycle. That's what I'm getting from this. It's very secretive, of course, as all Star Wars news is, but we are getting a new trilogy. So this is exciting, and I'm excited because of Rian Johnson. The guy is a creative voice that is refreshing right now. I mean, he's kind of a visionary. You know, he doesn't work with a lot of big visual effects, but when he does with something like Looper, it's usually awesome. He directed the best episodes of Breaking Bad, and the best episode of Breaking Bad, and you know, with stuff like Brick and the Brothers Bloom, it's just.
All right, so this is what happens when this shit goes down live. I guess some bear like attacked Joel's router and he went offline. But he was talking about the Ryan Johnson story and how they're basically, you know, keeping him under the mouse house, which is great news because I guess everyone really loves The Last Jedi. We haven't really seen anything, but you know, it is what it is. So until we wait for Joel to come back on, welcome to the Sexy Fire Chat story hour with Chase Lee here. We're going to be just talking about some really awesome... and Joel's back on. So let's get him back on. Joel, you missed it. I was talking about some really nasty stories, and you interrupted them.
Sorry, guys. My Skype decided to update in the middle of a call, which has never happened.
Well, so... don't worry. I continued it like a professional, and it did it again. So... this is fucking weird. I've never seen this. Like, okay, so I will continue on, I guess. So yes, Ryan Johnson's been tapped to kind of do more Star Wars films after The Last Jedi, which is fantastic news. Because, like what Joel said, the movies that he has done prior with like Looper and Brick, and some of the episodes of Breaking Bad, he is definitely a creative voice, and it's actually kind of cool that he's the only director that they actually want to continue to work with, versus like, you know, Colin Trevorrow or, you know, the Phil Lord and Chris Miller situation with Han Solo. It's just crazy. But anyway, Joel's back now, and you know, I'll tell you guys some more nasty stories later. Once again, Joel is back on, and you just interrupted some more nasty stories I was giving, and I was getting really X-rated with it, and you just fucked it up again. So
okay,
so
sorry guys.
If Skype is going to interrupt you again, can you just shoot it, please? Can you take it out Old Yeller style and shoot it in the backyard, because it's getting ridiculous.
It is. It's done. It decided to update right in the middle of a call, which has never happened. Usually whenever I open it, it updates immediately, so I don't know what happened, but something nudged it and told it to update. So I'm sorry about that, guys. Live show. So I was talking about Ryan Johnson acquiring a new Star Wars trilogy that will of course take place after Episode 9 comes out. And guys, I'm excited about this because, you know, I'm assuming that it's going to be a new cycle. This seems to be how this series is going, and you know, he's just this visionary. He has a great voice. I cannot wait for Episode 8. Comes out in about a month, and I'm like shivering in my pants with excitement. So I'm super excited for this, to see what it's, you know, all about. Obviously, it's shrouded in mystery. They're barely in the planning stages, but you know, this comes after a couple weeks ago. They were basically, you know, preparing the next, you know, like 10 years of Star Wars. So this was obviously something that was brewing for a while. And Ryan Johnson had the best reaction on Twitter, which was like, you know, obviously I really hope that you like Star Wars Episode 8, but now I really hope you like Star wars Episode 8.
Yeah, it's like they prematurely like did this news, and it's like, well, I hope people like Episode 8.
Yeah, which I can't imagine we won't. I mean, just from the featurettes we've seen and, you know, the general tone that it seems to have, the trailers, I can't imagine that it's bad. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine that it's going to disappoint everybody. Of course, people, even Star Wars fans, were disappointed with The Force Awakens kind of repeating A New Hope, even though it didn't.
I disagree.
But, yeah, there are different things there. But yeah, I'm super excited for this. So this is the good Disney news, and Chase, I'm wondering. I know that you're not, like, you know, a huge Star Wars fan, more of a casual kind of a passerby fan, if you will. But are you excited to see this from Ryan Johnson?
Oh, absolutely, because, you know, for the past like 2 or 3 months, Joel and we've had at least a Star Wars story like every single week. So the fact that like they are going to Ryan Johnson to do all these films, even when number 8 hasn't even come out, tells me a couple things. One, they've seen The Last Jedi and they love it. Obviously, it's their movie. They're going to stand up and apply it. That's fine. And two, they want to continue to work with him. When we hear about these stories with Colin Trevorrow getting kicked off of Episode 9, or we hear about Phil Lord and Chris Miller getting kicked off of Han Solo, it's devastating to know that they can't work with these directors. And you heard about Gareth Edwards with Rogue One and how they pretty much hijacked the editing room with that. And it's so they're basically just saying, hey, Rian Johnson works with us, he pitches ideas, we like him, and he does his job. And it's well, that's cool. So, but yeah, Rian Johnson, out of all the directors they have hired so far, he's been my favorite pick. Just because I remember seeing Brick for the first time. That blew me away as this really cool neo-noir film and set inside of a high school. And then, of course, Joel is right. He definitely directed the best episode of Breaking Bad, Ozymandias, which is was it the third to last one in the final season? So it's such a fantastic episode of television. And, of course, Looper. I remember seeing that in theaters for the first time, and it's such a really creative and inventive sci-fi story that I absolutely adore it. So the fact that he's going to be continuing on doing these movies, listen, sign me up. I kind of wish he'd be doing Episode 9 and not going back to the well with J.J. Abrams, but, it is what it is. But I'm glad that out of all the ones they've selected so far, and, their buy that they did from George Lucas, Rian Johnson's been my favorite. I can't wait. So, yeah, this is definitely the better news story from Disney because, oh boy, I have some thoughts about the final two.
Yeah, okay. So let's get into this because these will be our longer discussions of the week. All right, so essentially this has been a week that has seen the craziest pieces of industry news I can think of. And it's very hard to choose which one's first, but since one of them kind of crosses over with another media conglomerate or a studio conglomerate, and thus from there we're going to move on to other studios, I think I'm going to go to this one first. So basically, here's what happened. The LA Times had reported on some dealings, and they're really not very important, but some dealings involving Disneyland in the city of Anaheim, California. And the nature of the reporting, I suppose, got on the wrong side of Disney, who decided that they would blacklist the LA Times from all future, or I guess, I don't know if it was all future Disney screenings or for the rest of the year. Not really sure which one it was, but nevertheless, it was some sort of banning them from screenings, banning their critics. Note that the critics aren't the ones who wrote the story. So this is basically Disney attacked the free press. Mm-hmm. So then what happened was, in solidarity with the LA Times, a bunch of other film critic organizations decided that they would no longer count Disney releases for the rest of the year as awards contenders. So I guess, or no, was it all? I think it was all of them.
Yeah, it was all of them.
It was all of them, even the ones from earlier in the year, which would be a huge hit on them because that includes all the Marvel movies, Star Wars, all of their
Pixar.
Animation, Pixar, stuff like Beauty and the Beast, all of that. So this was big, and ultimately Disney, conceded. They said, okay, you're fine, you can go now, but let's talk about this, because what in the world was Disney thinking? How can they possibly have thought that that was a good tack to take on the LA Times after they reported on something? That's in today's world of the country's leadership essentially blacklisting a lot lot of
I like how you said leadership.
Leadership. Okay, quote
air
leadership
quotes.
unquote. The weird swamp creature that is the government right now. Get it? Swamp creature? Okay. So Yeah, they're basically blacklisting a lot of reporters. Trump, whenever, I think it was earlier this year or at some point in his campaign, I can't remember which one it was, he said that he would open up the libel laws and all that if somebody reported on him and he didn't like it. And we've seen versions of that basically happening throughout his presidency. And right now, it's not a good look to blacklist media for reporting on something and you not liking it.
Correct.
So how did they think that this would be effective? Like, I don't understand that. You can't muzzle the free press without the free press, pushing back. And if it's not going to be from the specific members of the press that you blacklisted, it's obviously going to be from others because press stick together. So how did they think this was going to happen? I don't understand anything about it, first of all, because who cares really what the LA Times thinks of the like the business dealings that you have with the city. I don't understand. But also, like, just what? Like a WAT kind of what? Or a WHUT or WUT kind of what? What, Chase?
A very Tourette-y what?
Yes.
It's a power play, and it disgusts me because when we talk about the next story, the more I sit on it, the more I just absolutely hate it. It's Disney going, hey, we're powerful, we can do whatever we want, but we've seen, especially with the administration that we have, if you cause a big uproar, you can change shit, and that's kind of cool about our democracy in this country, or what we think is democracy. And so with this story, it's just Disney's power is just it's getting too big, and it's getting to their head, and it makes me so angry because eventually they're going to try to buy out everything. And I'm not saying that Bob Iger doesn't have to buy out everything because what he has bought so far has been really great business moves, but all that power is getting to his head to where he thought he could just be like, oh, well, I'm going to just bar these critics from these screenings, which you even said this wasn't even written by a critic. Critics are not journalists, okay? Like, yeah, sure, we might do, like, essays sometimes where we, like, might analyze a movie, but those are movies. Like, we're not journalists. We don't do pieces on other things going on in the world, and so this is just weird to me. But then again, it doesn't surprise me since Disney is one of the most powerful countries. Well, it is a country. One of the most powerful.
It is basically a country.
Yeah, basically. It's one of the most powerful companies in the world, and so just them doing this and causing that uproar and them kind of retracting it is good. Because now that we know if they get too powerful, we can strike back a little bit. But yeah, I don't like this piece of news at all, and this actually carries over into the power play of the next story as well.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of them buying things, but yeah, I mean, it's basically like you're right. I mean, critics are not. Criticism is a form of journalism, but critics are a different thing. They're analysts essentially for the newspaper or whatever, the site. They analyze. They don't report in the traditional sense of the term, unless you take the Gene Siskel tack. But it's interesting. It's very interesting that they thought that because of a report that they would cancel they would cancel critics out of being able to see their movies. It just doesn't. I don't understand it. Like, I guess
it's really weird in this country right now because I'm gonna go ahead and just say it. And if you're a Trump supporter, that's fine. You can shut it off right now. But this administration has pushed the narrative of like, hey, if something is written negatively against you, then we should just shut down organizations. We should ban people. That's not how this country works. And now I understand if something comes out and it is a straight up hit piece trying to make someone look bad, then yes, you should fight that. But for the most part, these journalists are not going to risk their jobs like that. They do months and months of research, and they make sure that when stories break, they have the appropriate information to back that up. For instance, going back to the Louis C.K. thing, those reporters sat on this shit for months. It's not like something they just woke up one morning like, I want to smear Louis C.K. today, like, let's go do that. It's like, no, they do their research, and so whoever wrote this piece about the Anaheim thing, they did their research on it. So it's not like they just woke up and wanted to do a hit piece.
And honestly, most of these stories, this is the reality, and this is what a lot of people who take that, that idea that this is that a lot of this stuff is a hit piece, they don't realize is that a lot of this stuff falls into the lap of reporters who weren't even looking for it.
Exactly.
So there wasn't even somebody who got up and said, "I want to find out if Louis C.K. has skeletons in his closet."
No,
it was literally
people came to the journalist.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what people have to understand, and it's also an ethical thing on the journalist's part.
Yes.
To actually pursue the story. So if they feel like they don't want to, then they don't do it. A lot of times, they don't do. I'm not saying like the story never comes out, but perhaps somebody doesn't feel like they're the one to do that, and thus that person doesn't do it. Oftentimes, stories pass from one person to another because of that.
Yeah.
And so, somebody does it at some point, but it takes months and months and months and months and months and months, and sometimes years of research. And so, yeah, I mean, what people don't understand is that this stuff isn't, willy-nilly. This was something that they knew about for months because there was obviously reporters asking around about it. So their whole thing was, after the story hits, we want to see how it reads. And to them, it read poorly, so they decided to do this. Even though they should have technically done that, months ago if they wanted to. It was the ultimate reporting that made them mad. And that's when they decided to do this. And there's no brick wall like the brick wall of the press. When you fight back against the press will win. And that's because we live in a country where there is free press.
That's our First Amendment, people. That is what starts our country out. Yeah.
Anybody trying to infringe upon that is doing something unconstitutional. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's the president or if it's Bob Iger, who's essentially one of Trump's best friends. This is not a surprising move from him. He's kind of he's kind of a tyrant, to be honest. He's not a nice person, and I mean it's amazing. So moving on from there, this is the other thing with Disney. Speaking of them buying things, they're going to buy out like 80% of 21st Century Fox.
Yep.
And I mean, you never know if this is actually going to happen now that they have kind of their name smeared, honestly, because these things broke in the same week. But what? Another WAT what? A Tourette what? This is weird. So they're basically buying out just the movie corporation part of it. Mm-hmm. For instance,
I believe it's the movie and television division.
No, because ESPN is not going over to them. They're owned by Fox. I believe Fox News is staying with Fox, with 21st Century Fox. They're basically turning into a TV conglomerate rather than a movie thing. So
wait, did that report say they were keeping like Fox and FX and stuff, like the actual those networks?
I didn't see that in part of it. I would assume not, because because FX is a movie channel.
Correct.
So I assume it's a type of distribution. It's TV. So I assume that they're probably going to buy that.
Okay.
I feel like Fox is broadcast television or cable television or whichever one it is. Mm-hmm. And then Fox News, Rupert Murdoch's, that's owned by News Corporation, which is big enough that it could own Disney. So yeah. I assume that they're not going to buy that. But I know that they're not going to buy that because they are not taking over the TV part of it. I believe it's just the movie part. So this actually sparks a lot of interesting questions in its wake, because obviously Fox owns a lot of movie properties. Two of those are the X-Men and Fantastic Four properties. So those have obviously been a point of contention for a lot of people, that they should probably move those over to Marvel or over to Disney Marvel. Because, Sony kind of did that for Spider-Man and it worked. So that conversation kind of came up again in the wake of that. So this is very interesting. because I feel like the X-Men wouldn't fit with the Avengers. There's certain allegories attached to the X-Men that don't really work if they're put together with another team in that way, unless it's like Fantastic Four. I feel like if they're with Fantastic Four, it kind of makes sense. But they're with all these other people, and the reason is because the X-Men has always been an allegory for acceptance and tolerance of those not considered like, quote unquote regular people. And so it's obviously, in the current kind of cinematic landscape, an allegory for living as a gay person in America. And so there's an idea of intolerance, of the lack of acceptance of them, whereas the Avengers are all accepted, and there's one that's like God. There's another one that's a big giant green guy whenever he gets angry, which is obviously a mutation. And they're all accepted. And to some degree, so are the Fantastic Four. So the question becomes, do you just move the Fantastic Four? Do you move both? Do you somehow work the allegory into maybe the X-Men will receive some sort of acceptance because of their involvement? I don't know. It just feels like that's a little too complicated for me. The allegory might get a bit smushed, if you will. But nevertheless, it's very interesting. I'm curious to see where they go with this, because that's obviously those things are in question. And a lot of the, they have a bunch of other movie properties, and do those move over to what happens to Deadpool, for instance? Is there going to be a Disney-fied Deadpool? That'll be interesting, considering
what's going to happen to Avatar.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot that was Fox for some reason, even though I should know that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so then those might actually happen, like quicker than they are, because if it's going to move over, then it's going to happen before Avatar 2 is even made. It's gonna. I mean, they're shooting it right now, but it's gonna happen while they're shooting. So
correct.
I guess they have their funding for the next 4 movies or however many there were going to be. In which case, hey, cool, because I want more Avatar. I've been wanting to see a new movie for 8 years now. So that's very interesting because Terminator, right? So
Terminator's Paramount.
Oh, Terminator's Paramount. That's right. I forgot that they crossed. Okay, so that wouldn't be affected. But yeah, I'm just very interested to see how all this plays out. It's baffling for sure, but this is weird, man. Two stories in a row where Disney has decided that they have all the power.
Yep.
In one case, it's kind of just a weird business decision. In the other one, it's literally fascist. Anyway, I'm going to move it over to you. What do you think about this this buyout?
I don't like it. This is weird. When you have a studio that just recently, we're talking recently, has branded themselves as adult entertainment. When you look at what they did with Deadpool, breaking grounds with that was an entertaining movie. That is a hard R movie. Then, when you look at this year, with one of the best movies of the year, one of the best superhero movies ever made, we got an R-rated X-Men film. Now, with New Mutants, they're going to push it more towards that kind of creepy haunted house feeling. Why? If this goes over to Disney, they are never going to make an R-rated movie ever again. And so it's almost like getting our hopes up for something great, like a potential of this kind of gritty adult, superhero universe, and then it's just going to be squandered because even is it true that Disney could go in that R-rated route? Sure. When they owned Miramax back in the day, they released Pulp Fiction. Did you guys know that? Now you do. So they can do R-rated movies, but I hope they don't. If they acquire this stuff, they're going to have to go under a different brand name. They can't do it under Disney because then they'll never do R-rated. So if they want to do kind of what Fox does actually with their FX shows, with what they did with like Legion or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Those are mature shows, and so they have like their mature division, and they'll have other films that appeal more to families. You know what I'm saying? But Disney is branded as a family thing, and so yes, Star Wars, Marvel, and some of the Pixar movies can get pretty heavy sometimes, but they never cross into those boundaries. 20th Century Fox was the first one to go, you know what, we're going to throw all of our chips in one basket, and we're going to do something ballsy and R-rated, and I like that. I was like, listen, 20th Century Fox is now becoming tied with me in terms of Marvel, just in terms of just likability, and I love the direction they were going in, but now this, it's like, fuck, I don't want this. And also, that means Disney would acquire their Blue Sky Studios, which is their animation division. So that means they'll get, like Ice Age and Rio, which no one's really clamoring for, but still, it's like they're getting a lot of stuff. And if they get this, it's only a matter of time before they buy out Warner Brothers and Paramount and Sony and all these other studios, and they're going to be literally the only studio or bigger studio making movies, and then they'll be competing with like A24 and Bleecker Street and stuff, and so it's going to be like a giant-ass company going against these smaller companies, and that's all we're going to have. We're never going to have any middle movies where 20th Century Fox could take a risk on something like a Cure for Wellness earlier this year. That was a middle movie. They didn't do that well, but then you'll have like a Logan that will do or overperform. So I don't know why they're selling off their shit. Kind of irritates me, but if this goes through, Joel, it's only a matter of time before Mickey Mouse will literally come to your apartment or house and literally own you. He will come. He will come and he will just like throw up a magical contract in your face and go, sign this. You are now mine. It's like, I don't even fucking know you. Are you like some dirty sewer rat? And then you kick it in the face, and then Mickey Mouse will like fly to the air, and that's what's going to happen. This fucking son of a bitch.
That's an interesting and very vivid analogy. So I can't wait for that to happen now.
Right?
I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I want them. If they do acquire it, God forbid it might even happen. I just want them to keep the adult tone that Fox has set. I just want them to keep it because I've enjoyed the risk that they are taking on these movies. And I've told Joel this a million times, and I've told you guys this. As much as I love superhero movies, they can become stale every now and then. I want to see some freshness thrown there. I want to see a mix-up. I want to see something risky. I want to see some ballsy-ass moves in this industry, and that's what we got with these movies. And I just have a feeling that if Disney acquires this stuff, they're going to completely family-orient it, and it's not going to work considering that we've seen it do so well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, pretty much the only thing that I can imagine is safe from them is the Harry Potter franchise, because the rights to that are completely J.K. Rowling's, and I know that she's not going to sell them to them. So
well, that's also Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers is never going to give that up anyways.
Yeah, no, I mean it's one of their cash cows. So certainly very weird news this week. All right, so let's move on to some smaller bits of news. And these are actually really quick because there's really not much to them. Yeah. So the first one is that the Dark Universe is dead. Dead as a doornail
dead as the mummy. Oh, man. Oh, I almost choked there. I waited 3 months to make that joke, and I'm glad that this whole universe is dead. So, Joel, continue.
I am so disappointed in you. No, actually, I should know that this is probably coming from him at this point. Okay.
You will enjoy my puns, sir.
Oh, boy. All right, yeah. So because of The Mummy being a total flop and being awful and being just one of the worst things and being generally the worst summer movie this year, I think.
That next to Baywatch would probably be the most like agonizing summer experiences. Transformers.
I even liked Baywatch and Transformers more than this one. Yeah, this and I guess The Fate of the Furious are the low for me, but I just wanted to bring that up. Yeah, I'm just
Joel,
kidding.
why do you gotta bring that shit up? You know that angers me, my son, when you bring up a franchise that I like.
Guys, I love Chase. He's He's my best friend. He's my wife. Okay, so
Well, he'll still shit on my franchise, you son of a bitch. Don't backtrack.
That's our loving relationship. So this is good. I feel like at some point, maybe in the far future, they need to restart this with a fresh sense of this should be a horror franchise, not this is an action movie franchise with Tom Cruise at the front of it. Because I feel like they took the wrong approach. It fell flat on its face. It was a confused, terrible movie that really did not deserve to be the first of a franchise cinematic universe. And I'm glad that they decided, you know what, this is dead. We're not going to go forward with it, which is kind of amazing because they had some big stars attached. Who was it that was... It was Javier Bardem, Johnny Depp, of course, Russell Crowe, who had the bit role. Who was the other one? There was another person.
It was just Tom Cruise in that photo, and then, of course, Sofia Boutella.
Oh, Sophia. Yeah, that's right. So she was kind of part of it. And, it was just... It's just good because I feel like they totally ran it into the ground. I'm glad that they're going to, refocus, focus on something else. Because this was really like a DOA move from the beginning. And yeah, I'm kind of glad to see it dead, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of those things to where, because Joel, you were with me when we saw it, right?
I don't think we saw it together, no.
Well, anyways, as soon as the movie was done, I was just like, that was awful. Like, I had to text Joel right away, even though we were doing an episode over it, and we typically try to, like, not tell each other what we think about movies. I couldn't do it. It's just, The Mummy is atrocious. It was definitely one of my least favorite movies of the year so far. That was my main issue with the movie, is that they put the cart before the horse. They were like, hey, we're gonna build this universe. We're gonna have all these characters, but hey, we're gonna fuck up this movie. This is how The Mummy was. This is literally how the movie was edited and put together. There'd be like an action scene happening, right? And Tom Cruise is like 3'11", and so he's running throughout the forest, doing his thing. And so he gets knocked out, and then he gets dragged into an office where he literally wakes up, and Russell Crowe goes, "I am the Nick Fury of this movie. Here's what we got going on. The Swamp Thing is over there. The mummy's over there. The werewolf is over there. We're gonna have this universe." So you know what I'm saying? And it's like the scene felt so like just abrupt to the entire story. I was like, this is really what they're doing. And I think what makes it even more insulting is when you watch the movie and it opens up with that stupid Dark Universe logo, and you're like, Universal, stop your shit. Like, it reeks. And so, no. I'm so glad that this franchise is dead. I feel bad for a lot of their studio space, because they did build a lot of sets already. Like, it's for like the Bride of Frankenstein and whatnot. So they fucked up big time. So I'm sorry, CEO, I forgot her name, but she really screwed the pooch on that one. That's probably the worst investment she's done so far ever since she's taken over as CEO, because she's only been in charge of Universal for, I think, a few years now. So, but I mean, she's doing well in other areas, but this one is probably the worst thing I've ever seen her do so far. So, I'm glad it's dead. It was bad. It's still currently in my whatever my bottom 10 is. I don't really have one, but if I were to have one, it's still in there because, I mean, it's bad. Joel, why was Jake Johnson in that movie? Like, I've met that guy twice, and he seems totally like a good guy. That he was in that movie. He seems like a good guy. Like, I've met him. He's funny in person, but good Lord, why was he in this? I guess it was to be in something with Tom Cruise. I don't know. I don't know. So maybe. Fuck that movie. Moving on. Whatever the case, our last bit of news is pretty interesting one as well. So the Chronicles of Narnia movies are going to be rebooted with, I think, like the middle installment for some reason. Yay! Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Well, here's my history with the other movies. The first one was pretty good, and the other two existed. So there we go.
But they're going to be rebooting them because, of course, it's been 7 years and they haven't done anything about them. I don't know why they didn't do anything. But anyway, they're going to be rebooted, and they're bringing on a new director to oversee that, or to oversee the first one at least, that they're doing, and that is Joe Johnston. Of course, he directed Captain America: The First Avenger and The Wolfman. Going back further, he made Jumanji, Jurassic Park 3. So, really solid director, and he will be directing this one. But the kicker is that it's going to be his last movie. So this is interesting because I feel like he's had a long, solid career, and honestly, I'm happy for him because he's definitely left his mark. He was able to do a Marvel movie before he retired. He was able to do a Wolfman that was kind of the recreation of the old Hollywood horror classic. Sort of like what The Mummy was gonna try to be, I guess, at some point. And he did a Jurassic Park movie. He was able to be a big part in the kind of the peak career moment of Robin Williams in the mid-90s. So I feel like he's had this deep, awesome career. This will be his last one. It's kind of this big. It's going to be a big special effects extravaganza within a respected series. So I'm excited to see what he's done with it or what he does with it, I should say, because I feel like he'll leave off with a lot of solid effort, and so I'm sad to see him going. I'm glad though that he's gonna finally get some rest. He's worked a lot throughout the years, and I'm curious to see where this movie goes, and also why they're starting in the middle of it when they don't need to.
Yeah, he's just one of those directors that, when he popped up and he directed a movie, like, oh, it's Joe Johnston. Like, and when I saw the first Captain America back in 2011, I was like, oh, who directed this? Oh, Joe Johnston. It's like, oh, that was the Jurassic Park 3 guy. So what's interesting about this, Joel, I don't know if you know this, I was looking up as you were talking because I knew, but I had my thoughts mixed up. So get this. The first two, distributed by Disney. The third one was distributed by 20th Century Fox because Disney sold their rights. Now, if they get 20th Century Fox, that means it goes back to Disney, and they got Chronicles of Narnia back. So good job on that, you fucking idiots. So it's like, oh, we don't want this franchise here. Can you buy 20th Century Fox? Many years later, hey, we're gonna buy 20th Century Fox and all their movie properties. It's like, you morons. All right, yeah. As far as this one goes, Joe Johnston's been one of those directors to where, like, I've enjoyed his movies. I did like Captain America: The First Avenger and stuff. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what he does with the Chronicles of Narnia movie because these movies they've been falling since the first one. That's why Disney sold it after Prince Caspian in the first place because, yes, the first one did very well. Prince Caspian, I think it did okay. Then the third one did terrible in theaters, and that was done by Fox, and so I don't know.
The third one bombed. It kind of came out in December 2010, and it just kind of disappeared into Tron Legacy the next week.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with Prince Caspian because it kind of underperformed. It did okay.
It did okay.
But it was the month of Iron Man and Indiana Jones, and and nobody saw that or saw Prince Caspian, or even more tragically, at least for me, Speed Racer. Completely bombed that month too, and it was all about Iron Man and Indiana Jones that month.
Well, and that was also before,
and Sex and the City, I think.
Well, and that was also before Disney bought Lucasfilm, so Indiana Jones was still under Paramount, as well as Iron Man. So Disney didn't even have those properties yet. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's interesting. Paramount kind of ruled that month, which is kind of a different world.
Yep.
Considering now they're basically living or dying on Transformers. But
Joel, I like how you said it's a different world, and that was 10 years ago. It wasn't even that long ago.
It was 9 years ago, 9.5 years ago. So basically 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy. That's when I graduated high school, and suddenly I feel old. Okay,
I did too, which means I also feel old, you son of a bitch. So thanks for airing our dirty laundry on air, saying that we're depressed because we're old. So
don't worry, I got a cane for you for your birthday in 2 months. So yes, see how much I love him, guys.
So Joel got to see Thor Ragnarok on his birthday, and then he's gonna give me a fucking cane. So thanks.
Yeah, I think around your birthday, what comes out? It's like,
oh man, it's like
Death Cure. Maybe or something.
Yeah, I think it's the Maze Runner movie, and then before that it's like 12 Strong. But I do get in 2019 on a totally different side note. Split comes out the weekend of my birthday, or not Split, Glass. So
oh yeah, that's right.
So I'm excited for that.
Anyways, all right, guys.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on to our trailer. Well, I guess moving on to you telling us what your favorite bit of news was. Mine, I guess, not really much to choose from, considering a lot of it's negative. But obviously the Star Wars news is my favorite. So I think that's pretty much the only good bit of news.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be Star Wars for me, but I am so vastly curious now in terms of the Christopher Plummer situation, so we will see.
Yeah. Boy, that'll be really interesting. A month to go.
Yep.
We'll find out. So getting onto the trailers, wow. Okay, so interestingly enough, the first movie actually came out 2 days ago.
Yep.
To like no fanfare whatsoever, and it's not difficult to understand why.
Joel, do you remember when we talked about this movie? Because when I saw the trailer, I was like, we talked about this movie.
I don't remember talking about this.
Oh,
maybe you did. I didn't. Maybe it was before my time. I'm not sure.
I remember talking about the Michael Shannon Bigfoot story, and I was like, it sounds weird, but I'm interested.
Yeah. So this one's called Pottersville, and unfortunately, is not a Harry Potter spinoff.
Nope.
This one is. What even is it about? I don't understand.
Joel, you know what this trailer reminds me of? Like, I'm gonna do the voice for you. Coming to ABC Family this Christmas is Michael Shannon dressing up as Bigfoot scaring people. Woo!
Yeah, so basically he like drunkenly dresses up as Bigfoot, and then somebody sees him and thinks that it's actually Bigfoot, so it sparks this really like this weird, wacky adventure that looks like it's trying to be dark.
Yep.
At the same time, it looks like it's actually going to have some dark twist or something. I don't know, but it's got this insane cast. What? Who? Why? Okay, Michael Shannon, Ron Perlman, Ian McShane. I'm losing track already.
Yep.
Who else is in this? It's insane. It's insane. Who is this? Like a movie 43 situation where they were all blackmailed? I don't understand.
It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true, by the way. Some of them were like. Basically, movie 43 was held over the heads of some of those people, so that they had to be in it. And it feels like this is going to be one of those things where they just got all these big names. Some of them tried to back out. I think possibly Michael Shannon, based on his performance, probably tried to back out, and then was forced into it. And gives this. Apparently, he's asleep in this movie. He looks to be in physical pain. Like,
he looks like he's being stabbed repeatedly in the stomach.
He looks like he wants to be literally anywhere else right now. And it's kind of sad, but also funny. I don't know where this is playing. I'm assuming it's probably on iTunes. But I'm going to probably watch this by the end of the year. I'm just too curious.
God bless you.
David Ehrlich reviewed it and gave it a D-, which is very
generous.
Low. Very low for him. Like, he doesn't give those very often. Especially not Fs.
You realize that's like the Snowman territory.
Yeah, I mean, like he like to compare, he gave The Mummy. You remember how he like bashed The Mummy so hard that it was he gave that a D.
Yeah, which I did too.
Which I mean, but listening to his thoughts about that, D- is fairly significant from David Ehrlich over at IndieWire, and it's crazy. It looks like the stupidest movie in the world. It looks like it also has some interesting cinematography, which is really conflicting because specifically the nighttime stuff with snow and all that, which is confusing because everything else looks like it was made for $10 for like over the course of maybe a day and a half. Made with coupons. I don't know. All right, so let's move on from that. Well, actually, what do you think?
It's garbage. It reminds me of like a Tuesday afternoon special on ABC Family. Like when you watch the trailer, believe it or not, all the shots are overblown and it almost looks like How the Grinch Stole Christmas, like the Jim Carrey version. And I'm like, what is this?
The weird like canted angles and Dutch
weird.
angles and all that. Yeah, it's really weird. It's like they're trying to be Ron Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super baffling. Equally baffling. Well, not equally baffling. I don't think anything could be equally baffling, but also baffling is our next trailer. Chase, take it away.
Okay, so you guys remember that like gnome movie that came out a few years ago? Gnomeo and Juliet? Yeah, that's fucking adorable for the kids. Alright, so they have another one. So it's called Sherlock Gnomes. These fucking producers with these stupid puns. Okay, so essentially Romeo and Juliet get missing, right? And so they have to hire Sherlock Gnomes. It's fucking cute and adorable. Who cares? Who fucking cares? This trailer is meant for like 2-year-olds. Like I worked at the theater when Romeo and Juliet was playing, and of course I like to walk in movies and just like kind of see what the hell it's about. And I get movies for free when I worked at the theater back in the day. I didn't even want to see that for free. I walked in for 2 minutes and I was like, what $5 animation studio created this garbage and who gave them the right to distribute this shit? You know what's even funnier is that Joel and I we're casually making fun of this, like, I guess franchise now. Romeo and Juliet actually made money. Like, that's the weird thing, is like it actually was successful. That's why they made this one. And there's something really odd about discounted animation. Like, it's almost like they know it's garbage, but they still want to release it, and it doesn't even look professional. It looks like something you would create in, I don't know, Windows Movie Paint back in the 90s. Like, it's just, wow. I don't even care. Like, these trailers are just terrible, because, and I'm not just saying this to bash it and be funny with you guys, but, like, we're literally about to talk about another trailer after this that looks like it has creativity, emotion, passion, just artistry put into it, and then when you see this half-assed garbage, you're like, this is why I hate Hollywood sometimes, because they want to pump stuff through their rectum that doesn't even have time to process in their stomach, and they're just like, let's just throw this out in the public and see how they react to it. So just fuck this movie, I guess fuck this franchise. Joel, what did you think about this lovely piece of family entertainment?
Oh boy! So the first one was pleasant enough. I kind of enjoyed myself with it. But this looks like this looks awful.
Yeah,
this looks beyond awful. Like the weird thing where there's a gnome with a G-string or a thong or whatever that was he was wearing, like a 30-second fart joke. I mean, garden gnomes fart? I don't understand that.
Joel, when you start questioning logic, that's when we lose people, okay? So don't do that. The producers wanted you to feel like that gnome was farting, so fucking believe it.
It's sort of like, how and why did the Transformers need to talk the way they talk if they can't have the breath to, like... Anyway, whatever. Yeah, it looks ridiculous. Also, casting Johnny Depp at this point in your movie... as a voice of a character is probably death to your movie, essentially. But yeah, I don't like it. It's
I just don't like it.
I don't like it. I'm going to be seeing it because one of my goals next year is seeing animated movies in theaters. So in the same month, Gnome Alone comes out, and so that'll be interesting. There's 2 gnome puns. Two movies with titles that turn gnome into a pun. God help us.
And believe it or not, that's actually the second Sherlock Holmes movie we're getting, because we're going to get that Will Ferrell comedy one, which I'm looking forward to. But like, good God, it's like that's the 2 Sherlock Holmes movies we got coming out next year. Like, God help us.
Yeah, that'll be interesting juxtaposition.
Yep.
But yeah, so moving on to that next trailer you were talking about, this is Early Man. It's the newest Aardman animation. Mm-hmm. Man, this looks good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So here's my history with Aardman. I don't really watch the, like the shorts or whatever, the television shows. I've seen pretty much every movie they've released, though. I love Chicken Run. I love, love Wallace and Gromit and the Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which is one of the funniest movies ever made. That every second of that movie has some sort of gag, and all of the gags work. It's probably somewhere near the top of 2005 for me. What was the next one? I didn't see Arthur Christmas. That's one that I missed. I think I had a busy week and I just never caught up to it.
Did you see Flushed Away?
Oh no, I didn't. I forgot about that one.
That was pretty good. I liked it.
We have copies of both of those at work. I'll probably get those before, or rent them at least before seeing this one, because I want to be able to catch up for sure. I thought that the Pirates Band of Misfits was okay. Wasn't a huge fan. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that one. But I thought Shaun the Sheep was delightful.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it's good. It's the one where there's no dialogue in it, because it's just kind of the style. The only dialogue is really a lyric of a song at one point. So it's able to tell its story through motion and all that. It's fairly slight. It kind of got a little overblown, I thought, in terms of the praise. It's got like a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that sort of gives it a reputation as being, I think, slightly more prestigious than it is. It's just this fun, delightful, slight little movie that I had fun with. So I love the style of. I mean, here's another movie. It's not Aardman, but that I haven't seen yet, and I caught parts of it at work when we played it one day. Was Corpse Bride. I never saw it in theaters. I don't know how I skipped it, but we played parts of it at work. Couldn't hear it, but watched parts of it. I just love stop motion animation.
I do too.
Even if the movie doesn't really work itself, the method is always fascinating, because it's just these tiny little movements. It's so much work, and it usually is a delight to watch, at least. And so I can't wait. And this is going to be the newest one. It takes place, of course, sort of like the Croods. It's in that area.
Yeah.
The early men, not what are they called? Not Neanderthals. These are early humans. And
it's the early man.
Yeah, exactly. It's got Eddie Redmayne and Tom Hiddleston in a role that causes him to have a voice that I did not recognize. It did not sound like Tom Hiddleston to me. But Eddie Redmayne's in it. It's got a delightful cast. It's Timothy Spall, right? So who's the other one? There was a woman mentioned.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, whatever the case, it looks really fun. Some of the jokes in this trailer, like, are totally obvious jokes, but they make you laugh anyway, because Aardman has this very dry British wit that they apply to every joke, whatever kind of joke it is, and it's always funny. And I can't wait. I'm laughing thinking about it. It's so funny. I
love Aardman's work. Like, one of my childhood memories that I remember, it's one of the few I do remember, is I was 10 years old. Went to go visit my grandparents that summer, and we went to the movies, and they were literally playing like two movies there, and one of them was Chicken Run, and I remember just enjoying the hell out of that. And I don't think people understand like the meticulous like effort that it takes to make these movies. Like, now we see it more of stateside with Leica, with doing like Paranorman, Coraline, and Box Trolls and Kubo, which, believe it or not, all four of those have been amazing. They are killing it, and so it's starting to come back. And of course, with Wes Anderson doing the Isle of Dogs for next year, and he already did Fantastic Mr. Fox or whatever. So, it's one of those art forms that I've always appreciated. And believe it or not, I know, a lot of people don't agree with me that South Park is one of the best TV shows ever made, but their pilot episode was actually done by construction paper, and it was done with the stop motion technique where they would literally have to set a scene up, take a shot of it or film it or whatever they need to do to capture that one frame, move it, move a mouth, move an arm, and then take another shot. It's 24 frames a second, guys. So if we're doing an hour and a half movie, I don't even want to count how many fucking frames that is. Like, it's too much. And so this trailer, once again, it just shows you why Armin is the best. And a lot of people over here stateside do not really watch these movies. It actually kills overseas. And so with Shaun the Sheep, it did okay here, but it slayed over in the UK. So
slaughtered all of its competition at that time. Yeah, it's amazing.
So that's why I appreciate Armin.
We're getting 2 of these movies in the spring.
Yeah,
we got this one. I think it's in February, right?
Yes.
And then Isle of Dogs is in March. So that's
awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I cannot wait for that. Whatever other animated movies I actually manage to see next year, these 2 will be among them. Because we got to support this. People, please go see these movies, and I can't wait to see how they turn out for sure.
That's why I'm glad that I don't really like nepotism, but I am so glad that Travis Knight's dad, Travis Knight is the owner of Leica. His dad is like a super rich billionaire dude, and like he keeps funneling his projects at Leica because, believe it or not, all 4 of those movies haven't really done well at all. But they keep making them because he keeps getting money from his dad. So, you know what? I don't like rich daddy's boys, but if that causes us to get creative entertainment like that, I'm totally for it. So
yeah, that's true. So our next trailer really surprised me, Chase. What is it?
Okay, so as you guys know, I'm the comedy guy of the 2. Now, if Joel and I were to go see a comedy, I'm probably going to like it a little bit more than him unless it's just downright offensive or it's just not really funny. This one is a type of movie to where I am jealous of because it's something I would love to write. I love dark comedies, and I love when they push limits. I love it when they do something creative, and this is one of them. I believe it showed a little too much, but overall, it's a wonderful premise, great cast. What am I talking about? Believe it or not, it's Game Night. From Warner Brothers, and so we have Jason Bateman, Rich McAdams, and we have a bunch of other couples that go to a house for game night, and the ever so lovely Joel, what's his name? Guy from Bloodline, Kyle Chandler. Kyle Chandler comes up, and he's like, all right, so we're going to be doing these games, and you won't know what's real, and you're just going to have to go along with it, and we're going to keep pushing boundaries, basically. Something happens, and of course, everyone in the group, just heard of him, and they're just like, oh, okay, this is a part of the game, and now we have a crazy night of antics and, hilarity ensues. I absolutely love this premise, and if you guys have never seen this movie, it kind of reminded me of this movie with Pat Healy and David Koechner called Cheap Thrills, where Pat Healy, I think, just lost his job. I forgot what caused him to do this, but he goes to the bar, he meets David Koechner, and he's like, hey, I'll give you $10 if you go punch that guy in the face. And he does that because, it was his job. So he lost his job. He doesn't really have any money to support his kid or his family. So he does whatever David wants him to do, and because he has the money. So he goes to their house, and they keep upping the dares. Like, if you chop off your finger, I'll give you $5,000. And it's like, it was like one of the better dark comedies I've seen in a while. So Joel, if you haven't seen that, and everyone else, if you've never seen Cheap Thrills, look for it, and then when you watch this trailer, you'll be like, oh, I can kind of see hints of that. But it's not the same premise, but they, instead of doing dares, they do like a game, and so it is different in that regard. But I like the trailer because of the premise. I love the cast. It looks like it's gonna garner some really good laughs. I laughed at most of the jokes in this trailer, but my problem with comedies and the trailers that are being put together in Hollywood is that they show too much. They show all the good jokes, and by the time you see the movie, that joke is coming. You already know what's going to happen, especially that end gag at the end of the trailer was funny, but I really didn't want to see that played out because now when I'm in the movie watching, I'll be like, oh shit, I already know what's going to happen. So I'm hoping they're saving the better stuff for the movie, but it looks like it's going to be a dark-ass comedy that's going to work. And, producers of Rough Night, this is how you do a dark comedy. and not doing, a bachelorette party and then having some stripper get killed and doing your shit. It's like that doesn't work. Very Bad Things already did that. So this actually works in that kind of dark comedy vein where you can have violence, but it can be really funny. So I'm actually looking forward to this, but I do believe if you stop the trailer after like 30 or 40 seconds, I wouldn't blame you. That way, if you want to kind of like keep the surprises to you. But I think overall, as a trailer and a premise, I kind of loved it, Joel, and I really want to watch it now. So what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It does show too much, but I will say that one of the bigger laughs I've had this year was at the squeaky toy joke at the end. It just made me almost fall onto the floor laughing. It looks like a lot of fun. It looks like they're really taking advantage of this. I wasn't a fan of Cheap Thrills.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought it pushed too hard, and I didn't like anybody, and I just didn't like following them, I should say. And I thought it pushed too hard. This looks like it's maybe will be a little nicer.
Well, it's definitely more like studio friendly because Cheap Thrills is like it's a dark ass movie.
Yeah, it's very dark, too dark for me. But or it pushed too hard, I should say. But this looks like it's pushing just the right amount. It seems to be premised on the most amazing coincidence of all time because of what we see in those opening seconds. But yeah, I can't wait. It comes out next March, so a lot of good things coming out in March. Seems to be like the big month next year. And very excited to see it. Also excited for our next movie. This is my favorite trailer of the week.
Joel's been praising this movie and talking about it for the past year. We finally got a fucking trailer for it. So, Joel, please, for the love of God, take it away. What is it?
Yeah, it's The Post. This is the new Steven Spielberg movie. This is about the Pentagon Papers and their release. And it's about Ben Bradley and Kay Graham, played by Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, and sort of about the process. It's very relevant to right now, especially considering the news that we talked about with Disney blacklisting somebody for reporting negatively about them. But eventually they're kind of sanctioned from being able to report any more about this, and then they press forward because, again, there's no brick wall like the press. You fight back against the press and you're going to lose. Even if you technically win, you're going to lose in the sight of the public who like the press more than you. Anyway, that's PSA to corporations. But yeah, this one has a packed cast. Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, and basically every actor working on television right now.
Yep.
Or at least like every main actor. Like the actors that you think about that are at the top line of a show that is not on HBO. Maybe there's one or two on HBO. Anyway, they're in this. There's everybody from Bob Odenkirk to Matthew Rhys to Sarah Paulson to Zach Woods to
Did I see Michael Ian Black in there?
I think he is in the cast. I believe I remember seeing him in the cast.
That's so weird.
Yeah, insane. I mean, it's an insane cast. It's basically the movie's going to be the All the President's Men of right now, which seems very again very relevant. It's going to be in that vein, in the vein of All the President's Men, Spotlight. Sort of Zodiac, I guess, is kind of in the same area. And I mean, it just looks really, 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 really solid. Spielberg, shot this one after Ready Player One, which is the movie that's coming out in March from him. Another March release. This one's coming out in December to be rolled out in January, and it really looks like, as usual, as if he gives all of his attention to every single movie that he makes, no matter how close they are together in terms of scheduling. And this one, I mean, it could be his best since Lincoln, honestly. Or even, going back, I feel like his great one before that was Munich.
Yeah.
And this definitely seems like it's going to be up there for him because those two are great movies based on on his tackling of real life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, if this can be as good as both of those, we're looking at one of the best movies of the year. It's just going to happen. It's going to be top 5 material, and because Munich was certainly that for 2005, and I adore Lincoln. I think Lincoln is so smart, one of the best screenplays of the decade so far. And this one, comes from the co-writer of Spotlight, so it's fitting. And then the other one is a first-time female screenwriter who wrote the first draft of it. So I'm very excited for this. I think it looks solid. Can't wait for Janusz Kaminski's work. He's utilizing the heavenly rays of light again, and I love that. Major Lincoln vibes from those, and Bridge of Spies use that a lot too. So very excited about every single part of this.
Yes, Steven Spielberg is no stranger to doing movies close within release of each other. My favorite double year he ever did, and it's actually 2 of my favorite movies of all time, is 1993 with Jurassic Park and Schindler's List, so vastly different from one another. And the fact that he's got this one, The Post, which is going to be a serious political drama, and then counteract that with like a very popcorn, bright, fast-moving thing with Ready Player One, so...
Which also looks awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it looks great. So like that's what I'm saying. Like he can do no wrong. Even with his weaker movies, I guess like they're still entertaining. Like the guy knows how to do it. And this trailer did everything that you want to see in a political thriller / drama. You want to see that tension there. You want to see the backlash that people have against the free press. And you want to see the free press fight back. It's just a really great story that needs to be told in days like this, especially with their administration and everyone attacking free speech and the freedom of the press. It's just you couldn't time this out more perfectly, and especially with like earlier movies this year that I saw with like Mark Felt, the Watergate movie. That movie was fine, but like it didn't have that punch, like that, like just that punch that you would want in these type of movies to really hook you. The Post does that, and that's just from the trailer. But then again, it's Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. Can you do no wrong, people? It's like one of the best combos ever. Like, there's really nothing bad to say about this trailer. It was well done. It hooked me, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I mean, they're big right now, but imagine if this had come out in like 2000 or like 1997.
Oh shit!
It would have been amazing, considering that's closer to when Tom Hanks won his 2 Oscars in a row. Meryl Streep didn't have as many nominations, obviously, yet, but she was an enormous name. Now, they're sort of legacy names. They're still big. They're still huge movie stars, but they are older in years. At the peak of their fame, this would have been incredible to see. I don't even know if it would have happened, honestly, because obviously, they probably would have cost a little bit more, relative to inflation then, or the lack of deflation, I guess. But yeah, it's an amazing pairing. It's like we're already starstruck just by seeing the trailer. Like that opening scene of the trailer with them, actually interacting with each other in this amazing little dramatic moment. It's just amazing. 2 of my favorite people alive. And so, yeah, I just can't wait. So those are our trailers. I assume that your favorite is The Post as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's obviously, I mean, close second would be Early Man. But nevertheless, those are the 2 really good ones this week. So, we are going to be, tell us what your favorite is. I'm assuming it's probably going to be The Post on a wide scale. I can't imagine it not being, but let us know what it is, because I'm very curious to hear y'all's thoughts. And we are going to move on to our main review of the week, and that is Murder on the Orient Express. So this one is the latest movie from director Kenneth Branagh, as Chase mentioned earlier in the show. And it is an adaptation of the Agatha Christie novel of the same name. It's the second feature-length adaptation of that for theaters. It's the 4th overall. There was also a TV movie and then an episode of the the Hercule Poirot. That was a terrible. Okay, I'm not going to try to do that again. There's an episode of his TV show that also did this, much shorter version of it, but nevertheless, I have seen all of them, by the way. I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I love her novels. I think that there might be only a few short stories that I've not read from her, but I own like pretty much every novel that she's read or written. Probably not every novel that she's read. I'm just going to say that. Yeah. So this one is also stars Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot, who's a very famous detective, both in sort of in two senses. Literary, because of course Agatha Christie is one of the most popular authors of all time, but also within his little world, he's a bit of a celebrity. You know, he's been the influence for many other detectives after that. I feel like we wouldn't have shows like CSI or Criminal Minds without Hercule Poirot, even more so than Sherlock Holmes, honestly. And then, you know, obviously he's the influence for everybody from Adrian Monk to Dr. Gregory House. So people who watch those shows with those characters, you have Poirot to thank for them. But this one is before I get into the plot, I also wanted to say this. This is a bit of a PSA for those who have read the book, and it's also a PSA for those who haven't, who are not familiar with the story before this movie. So this won't make sense to the second group quite, but it'll be an interesting little tidbit for you to learn before you see it. So because of a contractual thing with her estate, not with any studio, that's important to note, with her estate, no studio that takes on a project can change the essence of the ending of any of her stories. And I'm going to get into why that is in my review, because it's part of my thoughts with this movie. Because basically, you know, screwing with Christie is screwing with the sacred text, essentially. I mean, it's the whole point of her story is to reach an ending that's unpredictable, unexpected, and elaborate. And so the agreement is basically they can't change the essence of the ending. Some of the plot things here have been changed or added. I'll get into those later, but basically, to those who are familiar with this, you're not going to be seeing some different ending. To those who are not familiar with this, you probably won't guess what's going on here. It's one of her more ingenious plots. So, getting into this, my excitement for it was pretty high, based on the fact that I've read the novel, love it. You know, seen all three of the previous adaptations. Watched a lot of Poirot over the years. I'm a fan of Branagh on the basis of some of his recent works. You know, all of them, to some degree, have been literary adaptations. You know, Thor's a comic book. The Jack Ryan is, you know, from a series of action thriller novels. Cinderella has its basis in literary fantasy. So he's kind of the perfect person to take on this project, considering he works with a lot of large casts a lot of the time. He seems to be sort of a modern-day Sidney Lumet, who was the one who directed the 1974 film, but sort of transposed into bigger, more elaborate productions. So I was excited for this based on all of that, and it was a letdown. So I'm going to hand this over to Chase for his excitement and initial word of, you know, what he thought.
Yeah, you know, when we talked about the trailer when it dropped, I was like, hey, that looks really intriguing. I like the way it looks. It could be like a lot of fun. It could be an updated version of Clue. Who knows how this is going to go? And I like Kenneth Branagh for, you know, what he is. You know, the first Thor is really great. Some of the Shakespearean stuff he has done is really great. He's one of these directors that really works well with actors and dialogue and the kind of pursuit of dialogue and monologues to really kind of get you invested into movies and really kind of adapt play-like structures into movies that can work for said movies, but sometimes it does not work, and this is one of them. I think that's actually one of the downfalls, and this was definitely a letdown. It's not one of the worst things I've seen this year. It's definitely not one of the best things I've seen. It's more of like, it's just a middle-of-the-road movie, which I think is more offensive than anything. So, yeah, let's break it down, Joel. Do you want to start with the positives or the negatives first?
I'll start with the positives, actually, and I'm going to say that people are probably going to be baffled, like, if I have this many positives, why am I saying that it was a letdown? And I'm going to get to that in my negatives, because there's a fundamental thing here that's a problem. But I'm going to get to that in a bit, and I will start with the actors, who I think are pretty uniformly solid to strong. I think that, this is a deep cast. It's got, at the forefront of it, it's got Brenna, who I think is pretty solid as Poirot. He gets a little theatrical at times. A little bit.
That mustache dances in the middle of the movie.
I was underplaying it, but yes. Part of it's due to the screenplay. I'm going to get to the screenplay later on. Part of it's due to the screenplay that he's theatrical, but Brenda does play the character as theatrical, and I think that that's a problem. But, in terms of the technique of the performance, it's solid. He's got some nice moments of emotion. He's able to act through the mustache while not he makes it like the central part of his face, but he doesn't just act with the mustache, let's say. It is a genuine performance. I think it's a good one. I thought that Daisy Ridley was really strong. Seeing her in her first, big non-Star Wars role was fun. She plays a character named Miss Debenham. People who have read the book will know who that is. I thought that Leslie Odom Jr. and Daisy Ridley, shared some nice chemistry. Interesting thing, Leslie Odom Jr. played the role originally played by Sean Connery in the 1974 film. So it's an interesting mix-up because they add in a racial element to the dynamic there. That was a curious decision for sure. I liked Johnny Depp a lot. He plays Ratchet, and Ratchet is the murder victim. That's important to say. I'm just going to say that. It's important to say. It's part of the plot.
Joel, why would you talk about the murder on the Orient Express when the movie's called The Murder on the Orient Express? That makes no fucking sense, okay? Like, we're supposed to... No, God, Joel, you already fucked this up.
Yeah, but he was solid. He's given too much screen time and too much dialogue, but he's solid. It was very much not the Mordecai meets Black Mass performance that I thought it would be. It's actually his most reined in he's been probably since, like, The Tourist. Like, it's the most normal Johnny Depp I've seen in a long time. He just, literally the only idiosyncrasy is the accent, which is, not his own. And it's kind of a Boston, New York, northeastern accent, basically. So he was good. I thought that he was good in his brief appearance. I thought that Josh Gad was really, really good here as his assistant McQueen, who has a lot of vices, and I thought that Gad played those nicely in the role originally taken by Anthony Perkins. That's the only time those two will ever be associated with each other. And then Judi Dench, solid, kind of background work as the princess. You had Olivia Colman as her helper. Willem Dafoe is this Austrian professor. It's just an endless cast. It's deep. It's wide. It's deep and wide. And so they were all really, they were solid. I thought, nobody's like overwhelming anybody else, really. And that was the case in the Lumet film. Nobody really overshadowed each other, with the exception of Albert Finney, who played Poirot. Kind of a small masterpiece of a performance. In this case, it's everybody's pretty much equal. It's very much an ensemble, and that was solid. And so that was a positive. Obvious positives is that it looks great. The cinematography is beautiful. There's some really clever God's eye view shot setups that are really clever because sometimes they're straight on, sometimes they conceal visual elements in the scene in a very clever way. And that's important for adapting Christie because she was a big fan of Misdirection, and any movie that's going to take her on is got to be the same. And so there was a lot of that. The production design, beautiful. They made the train great. Some of the CGI is kind of iffy, but nevertheless, when it comes to the outside of the train, at least the cinematography is beautiful. Some obvious green screening aside. And so, yes, it's a really solid production. Let me think. I think that the kind of entering the middle section when we're kind of getting accustomed to the case, and Poirot starts his interviews. It's very tense, as it needs to be, and I think that the general handling of some of the twists in the narrative was impressive. So those are pretty much my positives. It's kind of a lot of positives about the outward elements of the movie. I'm going to get into what kills it for me in a minute. So Chase, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I'm pretty much along the same lines as you. The performances are actually really good across the board. Two in particular, Branagh and Gad, completely just blew me away on how they took, I believe, very little material and elevated it to the best they could possibly do. It's basically just seeing a group of great actors exercising their talents. I mean, everyone across the board does very well, even if they have little screen time. The whole Johnny Depp thing, I liked his performance. Like you said, very reined in, not really extravagant, but there was that one scene in at the very beginning that they could have definitely cut down, but they definitely were like, oh, we have Johnny Depp, we got to extend that scene. So yeah, other than that, everyone across the board, good stuff. The production design and the costume design are very well done. They're lavish, they're colorful, they pop at you, and they're visually pleasing as you're watching this, because you don't want this movie to be dull, right? Well, that might be the case, but while you're watching it, just the way the train looks, their costumes, that time period, it just sweeps you into that kind of world, and I like the way everything was kind of handled in terms of that. Certainly,
the artifice was pretty kind of.
Yeah, no,
it was diverting. Yeah,
it's just a gorgeous looking movie. Another positive I really liked is this is where I'm split with Branagh, because I don't think in terms of story and characters he does a good job, but he does apply some type of visually aesthetic look to it with the cinematography. Like Joel said, I love the God's Eye view shots. Those are really, they're mysterious. They reveal a lot. They're symmetrical. I like the way they looked, and really kind of add that little extra pep into the movie that really, kind of woke me out of my sleep almost. And also he utilizes a lot of long one takes where we have a lot of characters going throughout the train as they're spouting off a lot of dialogue. Almost reminded me of like the 1950s films where, hey, see over there, you're going to be, speaking so fast, it's just, that's just the way it was. And, with this movie being set in a different time period, I thought that was utilized well with, these long kind of, takes going throughout the train, just seeing, how confined these spaces are, and, just the urgency of these characters. And, of course, like Joel said, the God's Eye view shots were very well done. So those are my only positives. We're pretty much on the same line. I think we might have the same negatives in terms of what kills it, and I'll go ahead and just start off, and I'll get the obvious one out of the way first, and then I'll jump into the other thing. The CGI is terrible. It reminded me of like a video game, and especially when you're mixed in with like this time period, it definitely does not fit well at all, especially at the very beginning. My God, that looked like a cutscene from Assassin's Creed. I was like, what is this shit? Because we'll have people waving as this train is going, and like, yeah, the people are real, but like, they're set in front of this weird, like, overly lit from the sun backdrop of a city. It looked like it was rendered for a PlayStation game. It was atrocious. And then when they cut to the outside scenes of like the mountains and the train, in some of the shots of the train, but the mountains, it looks so artificial and fake. It took me out of it. And I was like, I get it. It's a modern movie. They're going to have CGI, but my God, can we try a little harder, please? And I think the major issue with this is it's boring. It's a boring movie, and it's 2 hours too long. I don't know how much you can cut out of it, and I realize that you have to keep everything pretty much tightly like knit, just welded together when you're talking about an Agatha Christie adaptation. But I just thought for the most part, the best way I can describe it is that this movie was interesting, but it wasn't intriguing or riveting. It was more of like, okay, they're going through the kind of beaten paths of like a whodunit film, like you said, he sits down and interviews everyone. I think that's actually the slowest part of the movie. I didn't find any tension there. I didn't find any tension throughout the entire movie at all. Maybe that was just me, but I did find it a little bit boring, and I'm going to be fully honest with you guys. I slept for about 2 minutes in the middle of it. The guy sitting next to me kind of tapped me on the shoulder and was like, wake up, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, it's not because, I wanted to sleep through it. It's like, no, it's just, I didn't find it, just a movie that just grabbed me. It was just like, it was going through the motions. It was pretty to look at, sure, but I just found it to be pretty boring as far as a mystery whodunit to really get you involved into the movie. I also thought the ending reveal, sure, if it, that's what the ending is, because I hadn't seen the original in a while, so I completely forgot. I just felt like it was all rushed and was just like, oh, hey, we're going to be expository here and let you know about everything. And I don't know, I feel like I didn't know anyone. I just felt like everyone was a pawn in this murder, which is fine. That's what the whole point of the movie is, but I didn't feel like I knew anyone. So even when someone had a little bit of backstory that they were kind of mentioning, I was like, that's fine. The actors are delivering a great performance, but I wasn't feeling anything. It was just like this hollow shell. I'm a hollow shell of a man. Like I said, I think Brana does a good job in terms of visually, like aesthetic, like colors and, techniques in terms of filmmaking. But, bringing that over into a riveting whodunit movie, I didn't find it to be applicable at all. I also find that his abilities to make, movies almost like plays, like they work in other movies, like Shakespearean movies, but like this didn't work at all. I don't think the play like structure worked for this movie, just because when you have this movie that's literally on a train, it's going, and like the train is like representing like this rush like that you want as an audience member, and then when it comes to a grinding halt and like all the mystery is there, it's like it's almost like the rush that was within me stopped. So I just thought it was just boring. Like that's probably my biggest complaint to it, and I know Joel's probably going to fire back, even though we roughly have the same score. So that's pretty much it for me in terms of negatives. But I will say, even though I thought the ending was a little bit just kind of rushed and very just like expository and just like, all right, I'm gonna talk you all down until someone confesses. Like I said, the performances were way better than the material lended it to be. So yeah, so I'm really split with this because on a technical level, it's really well done. And I'm not going to take that away from the hard work of the costume design and production design department, because the art direction in this is absolutely fantastic. But Joel, I mean, am I just say I'm crazy and we'll move on?
No, I mean, okay, so I didn't find it boring. I think, well, there's a thin line between boring and dull. It's kind of a dull watch. But I don't find it boring on a fundamental level because I love the story, and I think that the ending is brilliant because of how out there it is in terms of the conclusions that he comes to. Here's my problem, and this actually spawned one of my longest reviews of the year. It's now available on my website. It ended up being like more than 800 words, even though it's just this kind of slight movie, is because it fundamentally, to me, is not Agatha Christie. It might claim that it's an adaptation of Agatha Christie, but what it really is this, vaguely serviceable whodunit that that adds too much flair, too much theater, too much muchness to the Agatha Christie story.
So basically what you're saying is that kind of goes back to my problem with it almost feeling like too much like a play.
Well, no, because I think that no, actually, here's the thing. There's going to be a lot of people who call this very bare bones, very streamlined, stripped down. I think it's not, and the reason is because it adds too many moments of elements that undermine the power of the Christie narrative. Here's the magic of reading Agatha Christie. You know, at the end of that book, and then going back to read it again, to just marvel at every single plot element, that every single thing in the movie is important. Sometimes the fact that something is unimportant is important. The thing itself might be unimportant, but the fact that it's unimportant is an important element in the plot. Like that's how meticulously plotted every single great Agatha Christie novel is. And here we have moments, and I'm gonna try not to give away anything, but we have moments where you have weird, like out of character one-on-ones between Branagh and some certain character where he updates that person on where he is in the case. He has an epiphany and he voices it to one of the suspects. Then he has another epiphany and he voices it to another of the suspects. He has a private meeting with one of the suspects in another scene, the same one, and tells her everything that he knows about her at that point, even though, ideally he wouldn't reveal that until he's telling the entire group such a thing. Then you have the big confrontation about with the entire group where he sets it at a table and he brandishes a gun. That's not Poirot. He doesn't brandish a gun. He might have been a cop at some point, but he doesn't brandish guns. That is not Poirot. He doesn't point it. He doesn't use it as even like he wouldn't even use it as this as a empty gun thing. He doesn't brandish guns. It is everything about that is against the character of Poirot, and it's something extra that Branagh adds to the character that's theatrical, needlessly so. And so at its very core, this is not Agatha Christie. It might claim that it is, but it isn't. And that's my problem. Now, there is, of course, the idea of creative liberty. I understand that. But again, messing with Agatha Christie is messing with a sacred text. You don't adapt Christie and then change up fundamental things about the character of Hercule Poirot, about the plot, about who talks to who at what point. You don't do that. And it's irresponsible and it's disappointing to do this because again, like there's in one corner there's creative liberty, in the other corner there's this meticulously designed plot that's overrun by theatrical moments of embellishment that don't fit the Agatha Christie skeleton. And if you're adapting Agatha Christie, only adapt Agatha Christie. Don't add your own little stuff into it. The story does what it does. It speaks for itself. And, stuff like amazing cinematography is fine. Obviously, honestly, Agatha Christie works better on the stage. I haven't ever seen a play of one of her works, but I can imagine that it likely works a lot better than on film, generally speaking, because they are confined stories and all that. I just, on a fundamental level, this movie is a disappointment. And so I don't think it's not boring per se. I can see how they might have made this boring. For me, having the knowledge of the story, I was interested in the pieces of it. But somebody with not immediate knowledge might watch this and just get the feeling that it's like this CSI episode, or not a CSI episode, I guess, but whatever the case, some sort of like a Law and Order episode, basically, just set on a train. But really, at its essence, that's not what it is. It's a very meticulous, streamlined, bare bones tale, and they've added too many embellishments here, and it just doesn't feel like Agatha Christie to me. So that's my major negative, and it's the film killing one. Or the momentum killing one, I should say.
It was weird.
Especially the climax. The climax is so disappointing.
Yeah, I was about to say that because like the climax was kind of lame to me. It just just everything all like happened at once. Like you said, it was so theatrical. Like it didn't fit because they wanted you to feel something from that climax, and it's almost like the film was telling us like we earned this moment. It's like, no, you don't. And so, believe it or not, my favorite part about the ending wasn't even the reveal of what happened to Johnny Depp's character. It was actually the arc and the revelation that the detective had at the very end. I was like, okay, like I actually like that because it provides some type of like growth in a character and an arc, but like just the whole reveal was just so weird. Just where it happened, how it happened, it just didn't fit in the movie at all. Even though when you watch these movies, you want a conclusion like that, but it felt so separated from everything else. I was like, the movie was telling us like, we earned this moment, let's fucking have it. It's like, nah, fam. Like, take a step back.
It's amazing because in the Lumet movie, it basically stays in the train the entire time except for at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so you have the big confrontation at the end happens in the coach.
Yeah.
And you know, here I guess they felt like the problem would be staging that, which I don't know why, because they did it perfectly well in the Lumet film, and it's really baffling. And at one point, like Poirot becomes an action movie star with the being like the bridge underneath the train. You know what I'm talking about.
It was weird. It was so weird.
Baffling. That is so not Poirot. He is not an action star. I mean, he's this portly little man who is very quiet with a
portly little man.
Portly little man who's very quiet with an amazing mustache and a keen mind. He's not an action star. He doesn't chase after suspects and tackle them and then get thrown down, and it's just like, oh my gosh. Anyway, that scene is one of the most moronic things I've seen this year, honestly.
It was pretty bad.
And I mean, even as a scene in itself, like separate from the Poirot part, it doesn't make any sense because it accomplishes nothing.
No, because
nothing is accomplished.
The tension is there, and then like as soon as like that scene is done, they're just like, "Oh, carry on now to the movie." Yeah, it's like, what?
It is literally somebody tries to get away and fails, and so absolutely nothing changes about the plot once it gets back into the train. And that's the point: is that the story of this movie is in the train. Mm-hmm. You don't go outside the train for a random action scene. You don't set your big confrontation outside as if they're like in a meeting or something.
Joel, maybe 20th Century Fox wants to sell their movie properties because they were disappointed in that one scene. They just looked at that scene and they're just like, Disney, please take our shit now.
That was probably it. That was probably their spirit breaking moment. But yeah, it's very disappointing. So I'm gonna go ahead and give my final grade if that's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, because I've kind of given my final thoughts. It doesn't feel like Christie. I'm giving this one a C. It's directly middle of the road, and I just didn't like it very much. So my grade is a C.
Yeah, I was going to go down the middle of it and just give it a straight up C because I think the negatives and the positives, they're just so equal. I couldn't really go south or north with my grade, but I think I'm going to give it the uptick on this one and do a C+, only because the acting is better than it needs to be, for sure, and then I do think, like, I know this is a very trivial, section of a movie, but, I mean, that production and costume design, I actually, like, when I was watching it, and I was thinking this the entire time, I don't know if anyone else thought this, but as I was watching, I was like, this is so whimsical, and it feels like a fantasy, almost feels like Harry Potter almost, and, like, just the way the costume and the production design were, I was just like, this feels like something out of a Harry Potter film, and I kind of really enjoy that because that takes a lot of work to do to establish that time period. So because of that, and because it was directed by Gilderoy Lockhart, so that's fitting. Yeah. So with that and the acting, I'll give it the uptick to a C+ because I know that that was way better in both departments than it needed to be. But you're right, it's a huge disappointment. I was like, I just walked out of there going, I was conflicted. I was like, I don't know if I like this or hate it. I'm just like, I'm down the middle on this thing. It didn't really evoke any type of emotion in me. Especially when if you've never seen or read this book, that ending is, pun intended, a killer. Because when it happens, you're like, this is a lot of information happening at once, and you're like, this is a lot of shit that's going down, but like, just like when it happens, you're like, you don't feel anything. Like, I was just a numb corpse at that point. I was like, I want to go to sleep. So yeah, Murder on the Orient Express, the 2017 version. C from Joel, C+ from me. But what about you guys? Because I don't give a crap what Joel thinks. I don't give a crap what I think either. Let us know down below what you thought of the movie. And speaking of the movie, Joel, we got to roll into the box office because I'm sure you're curious on how that did and how.
First, I've got a mini review.
Oh well, okay, fine. Like Joel, you want to give your little mini review and let's go. You know what's really great about the review that Joel's going to give is that. This is probably the weirdest trailer placement I've ever seen in front of a movie. The movie that he's about to review, its trailer, no lie, was the first trailer that played in front of Jigsaw when I saw it a couple weeks ago. And I was like, do they even know what movie this is? So, yeah. So, Joel, what is the movie you're going to mini review for us?
Yeah, so this one is The Square. It's from director Ruben Östlund, who is the guy who made Force Majeure the other year. This one is really good, going from a disappointing movie to one that's a potential top 10 contender for me. This one is very bizarre, though. It's basically it's kind of like an examination of ego and art and kind of what drives both and how both drive each other. It's one of those movies. But basically it's the story of this curator of an art museum who's taken in an exhibit called The Square, which is literally just a lighted square in the middle of the museum. And you kind of step into this square and suddenly the attitude is that all rights and obligations of humans are equal in this square. But the movie isn't even really about the square. It barely has anything to do with it, in fact. So, which is kind of fitting, though, because the movie becomes its own form of performance art in which this curator, basically the entire plot of the movie, plot being in quotes, is about how he's consistently humiliated over the course of the story. So first he gets his wallet stolen during what is likely a scam when this woman is screaming about how she's about to be killed, and then the man who's going to kill her comes over and suddenly his wallet's gone. So and his phone. His phone is both his personal and his work phone. So there's that. So then he decides, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find it by sending a letter by tracking the phone and then sending a letter to the residents of the apartment building where the phone is that says, I know you stole my phone, so give it to me, as a way of kind of fishing out the culprit, which causes a lot of problems with one particular tenant. And also, he's trying to sort of be the middleman in this agreement with the creator of the square to and the PR people in his museum to create an ad campaign for the square, and that turns into this baffling thing about an exploding child. I kid you not. And so he gets into that. Then he gets involved with a woman played by Elizabeth Moss, who is sent to interview him about his museum, and that one kind of turns into this weird like relationship of power dynamics. Anyway, it's so bizarre. It doesn't really have a point until the end, and even at the end, it's like the point is kind of evasive. But I gotta say, I had so much fun watching this. It's a long movie. It's 2.5 hours. Chase is probably surprised to hear that, considering this premise, but it is 2.5 hours. It spends a lot of time with the characters, examining, specifically the main one, examining all of these dynamics of power and ego and artistry and everything. And it's just terrifically acted. Elizabeth Moss is great. There's this The one problem I have is this scene that's kind of become famous to people who've seen it, which is an extended performance art scene performed by Terry Notary, who is one of the actors from the Planet of the Apes reboots. He's one of the people who plays an ape, maybe a couple of them, I'm not sure, in the series. And here he plays a man who is a performance artist who interrupts a dinner and acts as an ape through the whole thing. It goes on too long. The punchline's rather mean-spirited, even for this movie. That's really my only problem. Maybe the movie itself could be, cut down a bit. But again, I mean, it's just like these series of sequences where the whole point is to invoke reaction out of you. And it goes deeper and deeper into these oddball scenes that are literally just meant to keep your attention. Like the relationship between the main character and the Elizabeth Moss character reaches a point where they have a confrontation about, their feelings, and it's set against the backdrop of this another art exhibit that's this super loud, intrusively, annoyingly loud pile of chairs that has a little machine underneath the pile that keeps them moving at all times, and then at some point just randomly makes this gigantic burst of noise that has nothing to do with chairs. And so you have this serious confrontation of two people trying to be quiet set against the backdrop of this thing that's very loud. And it's kind of this little, it's an extended joke, and it's really funny, sometimes very moving, obviously. The performances are all great. The main guy, and I'm sorry I'm not saying his name. I literally have no idea how to say his name. So I'm not going to try it. And I'm going to spell it for you guys. The first name is Claes, and the second name is Bang, Bang. But I don't know if it's Bong, and I don't know how to say the first name, so I'm not going to try. But Elizabeth Moss is in it. Dominic West has this bit role as another artist, or another creator in the museum. And anyway, it's just a terrific, fun time. If you can stand the length of 142 minutes being the length of this very weird kind of almost pointless comedy where a lot of the characters are not very nice and the movie doesn't seem to like them very much, you'll have a great time at this. Certainly worth checking out before the end of the year if you're into that kind of thing. So I'm going to give The Square an A-.
Oh, wow, it's that high, huh?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, that high.
Yeah, no,
So,
I listen, I've loved the trailer and how weird and kooky it was, especially, I sat there with the Jigsaw audience, and this trailer plays, and I was like, are people going to, like, boo it when it's done? Like, what's going to happen? And then the credits roll at the end of the trailer, and then just crickets. I was like, do people like this? Like, I was like, this is the motherfucking Jigsaw crowd. This is a film that's for us weirdos that just love to watch garbage. And like this movie that looks like it's going to be, an awards contending movie is like it was weird. All right, so but
it is Sweden's official Oscar, foreign language submission, and I really hope it gets in because it deserves that. Force Majeure did not, and that was a big upset for me. So I'm hoping that they pay attention to Orslem this year. So
yeah,
anyway, go ahead.
No, thank you for the review, because now I'm even more pumped to see it now than I ever was before. So, and speaking of The Square and many other movies, the box office results are in, guys, and there are a lot of fascinating upticks in percentages and numbers that I can't wait to get to. But before we get into that, we're going to have Joel fuck up again, just like I do. Joel, what is your top 5 guesses? Now, the clues I will give you is that the only 2 major releases are Daddy's Home 2 with the TWO, and then Murder on the Orient Express, the 2017 version, because, we had to clarify that. So those were the only 2 that came out. Now, there were a couple of smaller films that debuted or had like a wider release, but I'm gonna be honest with you, they're nowhere near the top 5, so those are the only 2 you have to worry about.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that because this will be one of the great achievements of Hollywood, that Daddy's Home 2 is number 1, Just kidding, guys. And then I'm going to say that number 2 was Thor. I might be shooting myself in the face with that. Actually, I'm going to switch that. I think that Thor maybe repeated. So I'm going to say number 1 is Thor. Number 2 is Daddy's Home 2. Number 3... I'm going to say number 3 is Murder on the Orient Express. Number 4 is Jigsaw. And number 5 is Boo 2, a Medea Halloween.
I will say that out of those 5 choices, 4 of them are in there, but you only got 3 right. Now, if you would have said one other movie, you probably would have had it. So let's start with number 5.
Oh,
yeah, you shot yourself.
See,
in the
I
foot
was
big
confused
time.
because literally the same movie opened this weekend.
Exactly,
So,
it's the same fucking premise. So, number 5 is Jigsaw. It only dropped 47 more percent. That's awesome. Made $3.4 million this weekend, which is great for November fucking 10th. Its budget is $10 million. Its worldwide total is at 79. And you guys know the rule: double the budget, maybe add some PAMR. I'm gonna say like at most 25, 30 million. They've almost tripled that. That is astounding, especially for a movie that hasn't had an installment for 7 years. God bless you, Jigsaw. God bless you. Number 4 is the movie that Joel forgot, Bad Moms Christmas, with 11.5 million. It actually only dropped 31%, which is pretty astounding because usually movies drop about anywhere from 40 to 50.
I'm guessing a lot of people probably saw this and Daddy's Home 2 at the same time, honestly.
Oh, God.
Which,
yeah,
more power to them.
Yeah, good for you. So its budget is actually pretty high, is $28 million, and worldwide right now it's at 46. That's not good, but it's actually going to make its money back as the weeks progress, and when it goes on streaming, it's going to do fine. Number 3, Joel is correct. Murder on the Orient Express. And Joel's going to be, like, even with the mediocreness of Murder on the Orient Express, I still wanted it to beat Daddy's Home TWO, but you're going to be shocked on how close this is. So it came in at number 3 with $28.2 million on a budget of actually pretty close to Daddy's Home TWO. It's $55 million, and that probably went more towards, production design, costumes, and probably half of Johnny Depp's salary. The guy's notorious for asking for like $25 million. It's ridiculous. So its budget $55 with its 28 U.S. haul. It actually opened up overseas pretty strongly, actually, with $57 million. So worldwide, it's at $85, and I'd say to break even, doubling that, we're looking at $110 with marketing. They push for marketing pretty heavily, so I'm going to say they probably spent anywhere from 20 to 30. I'm going to say conservatively maybe 130 to break even. It'll probably do that. It's like, I actually equated this movie to be a very strong rental. Like, if you're curious about it, like, you can rent it. It'll be fine. Yeah.
It's obviously you could do worse than this. I mean, clearly, yeah. If you rent it, it's fine. It's just not really one I'd recommend.
Exactly. But like, if you were curious about it, like, Joel and I agree, like, you don't have to go rush out into the theaters, so actually probably will do better on streaming. Unlike this movie that just makes me want to cry inside. Number 2 is Daddy's Home 2 with 30 million even, so you see how close it was. It's terrible. Its budget is higher. Why? All that movie is like a bunch of fart jokes inside of a set house. Like, what the hell did you spend that money on? So, all right, so get this. Its budget is $69 million. That's funny for obvious reasons.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay,
Nice sex joke, bro. With its 30 million domestic haul worldwide, it's only at like 30,400,000 because it didn't release in that many markets, which is funny. Yeah, so doubling that with its marketing, they spent quite a bit on marketing. I'd say 175 maybe when all is said and done to break even. At 30 million, that's not really looking good, but as we get closer to Christmas, we might get people that are just fucking bored and want to go dry their eyes out, I guess, of just boredom and terribleness.
Watch paint dry.
Yeah, exactly. So, oh, God. And number 1, obviously, with the repeat, it actually didn't drop that much with 53%. Even, like, I'm going to go ahead and just say it right now, even if it drops 50% again next weekend, it's still going to make about 25 to 30 million, and that's going to cut through Justice League's audience a little bit. So once again, Warner Brothers, you done fucked up with the release date, but whatever. We'll get into that in just a second. Thor Ragnarok is doing pretty well. Added another 56 million. Its budget, like, this is fucking crazy. It's only been out for 3 weeks. Because remember, it released a week ahead of us in the foreign territories. Its budget's 180. So doubling that, we're looking at 360, just as a baseline. And then we have marketing, which it's Marvel, it's Disney. They putting in some big bucks, yo. So I'm going to say about 100 million. So I'm going to say when all is said and done, even on a, extreme level, 500 to break even. In 3 fucking weeks, 650 million worldwide. That is crazy, dude. Like,
wow.
Like, the other Thor films wish they could have had this, like, amount. Like, yeah, good job. Jeez.
Funding the next, 6 Taika Waititi projects that are not very big.
Seriously. So, yeah, good job, Taika. You just got your whole career funded. So,
pretty much.
Yeah, that's number one, guys, and that is the top 5. So getting on to the kind of smaller market, Joel's favorite movie of all time, Lady Bird, was at number 26 last week. It's number 10 this week with 1.2 million. It jumped up 242% by only adding 33 theaters.
Wow.
Its average $33,000 per theater. That's ridiculous. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know Joel's happy about that.
Be ready for a rave next weekend, guys.
Oh yeah, like this movie, I wouldn't be surprised if this will be Moonlight like last year at the Oscars. So get ready for it. It's coming. Also, another great uptick news. Killing of a Sacred Deer jumped up 21% and added 152 theaters. Its theater per average is not good, but it's at $476,000 for this weekend. Almost got 2 million. That's more than most Yorgos movies, so good for him. This is the opening movie for the week in terms of smaller films. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri opened up in 4 theaters. It's for its limited run. It didn't do bad. 320,000 for the weekend. Good. It made 80,000 on average, so good for it. I
see that one this week. I'm excited.
Yeah, so. Joel seen that and another one which I'm also excited with. We're going to be seeing it together. So all right. So get this, and this is all smaller films, all upticks. Wonderstruck up 5%. Last Flag Flying actually did better percentage-wise than Lady Bird. Last Flag Flying, which is the new Richard Linklater movie, it went up 324% from last weekend, and it gained 28 theaters, made $172,000. Its theater per theater average isn't as good as Lady Bird, but that's still a humongous uptick.
I'm also seeing that this week.
Oh, jeez. You got a busy week.
It's a big week. The one that we're seeing together, which I don't want to give away. I'm seeing three Billboards. Of course, Justice League comes out, and then I'm going to be watching Mudbound this next weekend. So I'm excited.
So basically, what Joel's saying, don't contact him because he's not going to fucking answer his phone.
I will not.
And also, the mini review that Joel had, The Square, actually gained 30 theaters this week and had an uptick of 27%. So that's not bad.
Nice. People are seeing it. I like to hear that.
Yeah. So. And also another film that Joel reviewed for Dallas Movie Screenings as well as his website, BPM, beats per minute, it actually went up 8%. It gained 15 theaters, so it's nice. So
yeah, I like that one. By the way, guys, if it's near you, see it. It's a very important story of ACT UP, which is the group that wanted to fight back against the lack of a treatment for HIV/AIDS. And it's a bit long, but it's really deeply felt, really well performed. Has one of the best performances of the year. I'm not going to try to say his name, but he plays a character named Sean, And so that's quite good. I was gonna wait until the end to plug that, but might as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it bleeds in perfectly. And just one last thing, because this is absolutely hilarious. Jumping up from 112th place from last weekend to 55th place, and it made $461 with an average. It's in 2 theaters, by the way. It lost 5, and so that means it's $200 per theater. It was Firm Request. That movie just comes back and haunts us because that movie's god awful, and I was like, all right, we're never gonna have to talk about it again, and it comes back.
It just wants to be your friend, Chase.
No, it doesn't.
Just wants to.
No, it doesn't. I will cancel that Friend Request, and I will bury it in the backyard. So that will do it for the box office results, guys. It's pretty all over the place, but some really great stuff with like The Last Flag Flying, and of course Lady Bird, which is probably going to dominate the award circuit. So, yeah, that's the box office results. And so that will do it for this week's episode, guys, of 207. Next week, guys, is 208, and that is the 4-year anniversary. Joel, what in the fuck are we doing?
We are reviewing an animated film by the name of The Star.
No, we're not. Nice try.
No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, it's going to be Justice League, which is a big movie that nobody's heard of. That'll be the main review, and then I'll be offering. I've already mentioned it. I'm going to be offering an extra review of Lady Bird. So that'll be a big week. I love it, and I don't know if Chase is going to offer something I haven't found out yet, but those are the 2 reviews on the docket, at least for now. So
correct.
Big week, probably going to be a big week of news and trailers, considering that's a big movie. It's going to draw in a lot of trailers. So I'm looking forward to it.
Joel, I guess just as a quick speculation, it's Warner Brothers, so what kind of big trailer do you think they're going to drop?
Oh, man. They might try to do a second one for Pacific Rim.
Possibly.
That's
actually pretty genius to do that.
It would be genius, although it seems to be a little too soon after the last one, so I don't know. They might wait until... Do they have something in January? I think they do. Anyway... or January, well, it seems too long. I don't know.
January they have that 12 Strong movie.
Okay, they might wait until then. I guess it would make more sense to do this one, unless... Do they have something in December?
I don't think so. I don't think Warner Bros. Has any more big movies, because Blade Runner, Justice League, and Wonder Woman were pretty much it.
I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, maybe like...
Oh, shit. Joel? Because I think they just got done wrapping up filming. I'm going to make a prediction that maybe they might have a teaser for Godzilla 2.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that might be the case. Yeah. It's enough time between finishing shooting and them, like, they're probably already working on it, but finishing, editing a trailer for it. That could very well be the case. In a perfect world, we would get like some teaser for Fantastic Beasts 2, but I doubt it. I want that though. But yeah, so gonna be potentially a big week. You never know. I mean, they might surprise us with an Avengers thing. They just like run it out like out of nowhere.
That would be hilarious.
That would be awesome if they did an Avengers trailer in front of Justice League. I don't know. It would be fitting, certainly. Superhero team up. But I can't really think of anything else. Man, I mean, obviously we can't think of anything else. There's obviously other things, but I don't know. Maybe another Black Panther. Well, no.
Well, you know what? Did one. You know what would be quite magical of them is if they were to, because they finished filming on this one, a couple weeks ago as well. Maybe they'll have a teaser for Aquaman.
Ooh, well, yeah, because it's less than a year out, right? It comes out next October, so that could be the case. Yeah, maybe it'll be one like they don't announce really, and it's not an online thing; it's just an in-theater thing. Could very well happen. But whatever the case, we'll obviously report on whatever they are.
Well, I hope that they do it because they did Warner Brothers actually did one of my favorite surprise trailer marketing moves I saw this year was when I saw Annabelle Creation. They had a short clip of the sewer scene from It. Yeah. So that was kind of cool of them. So maybe they'll have something with that. But who knows? Warner Brothers, you always be doing some weird shit. So that will be next week, guys, on the 4-year anniversary episode. We're going to be talking good old JL. They are all in. according to the trailers, which means Warner Brothers is scared as shit, and they are all in as well. So that'll be fun. So Joel, let's wrap it up. Where can the people find you online?
Yeah, so you can find my writing at joelonfilm.com. In addition to the Murder on the Orient Express and The Square, I also reviewed 11/8/16, which is a very thin, unappealing documentary about the election from last year. Kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't really know about it until about a week before it came out on Netflix and various other streaming services, and in theaters a little bit, but mostly there. And it follows a group of voters, and it's not exactly a fair analysis of anything, and it's just very, very bland and kind of lame. And then obviously DallasMovieScreenings.com. I have a review for Beats Per Minute up there, so go check those out. And you can follow me on Twitter at RealJoelCopling and on Letterboxd at JCopling.
That is correct. You can follow me on Twitter at RealChaseLee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get other reviews that I don't review on this show, or you want to get early reviews. Like, for instance, I dropped the Murder on the Orient Express the review on Wednesday, and you could watch that shit early if you want, or you can just wait on Sunday like you normally do on this show, which, is on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud. We're all over the place, and let people know this is the definitive movie podcast because, hey, listen, if you made it through this entire movie podcast and you're not a movie fan, well, hopefully we convince you to be one. That is Joel over there. I'm Chase, and listen, all the links will be in the description below if you want to follow us anywhere or whatnot. So we'll see you guys next week for episode 208. 4 years doing this shit. I thank you all. I love you all. You guys are amazing. So peace out. We will see you guys next week for the 4-year anniversary show. And then let's play the outro music out right now, which is done by my friends band Fervent Roze. Peace out, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.